Hello， 大家好。嗱，今個星期嘅 YouTube 咧就同平時好唔同啊！我就帶緊大家咧就去一間小學，咁佢嘅位置咧就喺 Warrington 同 Northwich 之間嘅。個小學名咧就叫做 Whitley Village School。咁點解會去呢度咧？因為個校長咧突然間聯絡我，咁佢就話佢學校仲有位啦，同埋佢亦都好了解咧啲新移民嘅家庭咧就好需要幫助㗎。咁我見佢咁熱心咧，於是我就問可唔可以去佢間學校影下附近嘅設施啊，同埋咧同佢做個 interview， 咁佢一都答應啊，所以一陣間咧我就會即係把緊呢個機會啦，咁我就會問下佢究竟即係譬如話我哋一般香港嘅朋友佢哋想申請學校係要留意啲乜嘢啊，個手續係點啊？我哋到咗啦，就係呢間校舍啦，咁同埋咧都會影下學校嘅設施俾大家睇嘅，咁有興趣嘅朋友繼續留意啦。
In the English system, we go from reception up to year 6. So forgive me if you know some of this, but I'll just talk to your audience.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, to learn. I mean, I've worked in other parts of the world, so I'm quite used to children coming from all over the world. So from East Africa, West Africa, and from Commonwealth countries as well, Fiji and the Caribbean islands. So I know the kind of issues that parents generally face when they come in to schools, and what needs to kind of happen to make their children make rapid progress. So in my experience of working, say, in Germany, where we've catered for a lot of children who are not English speakers, by about 6 or 7 months, you can't really tell the difference in their kind of language fluency, and they pick it up really, really quickly. One of the things that we're very fortunate here, we have very, very good behaviour for learning. So in Hong Kong, I imagine you probably have pretty good discipline in your schools.
Yes.
Sadly, that's not the case in some schools in England for a variety of reasons. That's what every school would aspire to have really good behaviour, but in some schools it is a challenge. In this school, we're very, very fortunate that we have excellent behaviour for learning. So my teachers have the ability to just teach, and that's really lovely for teachers because that's what we train to do. We obviously are trained to control our classes and things like that, but there is a culture here of learning, high expectations of behaviour, and we have that, so we're very fortunate.
Yeah,
and that's one thing that that's one of the reasons why parents choose to send their children here, so that they can enjoy the opportunity just to learn without the disruptions of bad behaviour and things like that.
Yeah.
So anyone coming here, they join our community, and they tend to get into that culture of good behaviour, and that's what we expect, and that we help children to reach that if they can't quite manage that. And with all the children here are really good role models as well for that, and so they help us enormously.
That's great.
So
in a day, how many children in this classroom?
Well, in the day we could have in this classroom at the moment, it's quite a small classroom, so we have about 19 learners.
Yeah.
So that can fluctuate though, depending on our intake each year. But we normally can take up to 12 every year. If we have slightly less in one year, we can take more. But in terms of each, in this school we have 3 classes, so we have mixed aged classes, and we plan very, very carefully for that. So we have skills documents on our website, and we plan a curriculum that is a cycle, so that no child coming to this school would repeat any knowledge, so that they would they would repeat it to consolidate it, but there wouldn't be a chance of them coming, say, and studying the Romans twice, or maybe invaders and settlers twice. They would in history. So we plan our curriculum really carefully. So in this classroom there'll be 19 at the moment. We can take a higher number than that. And in our other classrooms we have a little bit of room, so we can take in-year transfers from different year groups. And if we do take children, we tend to look at where their gaps in learning are. Unfortunately for us, we're quite well staffed, and our staff are very experienced, so we can take those children and find out what they already know and help them to achieve their potential. Yes.
When I first saw your message and you were the head teacher, I'm extremely surprised. So how did you find us, and why do you contact us?
Right, I should say that I'm head of school, but I have an executive head teacher because we're such a small school. I work with an executive head teacher called Hannah Broom, and she there are lots of functions that we share, like school business manager and things like that. So she kind of takes care of the strategic aspects of the organisation, federation. But in terms of finding you, I'd heard that the British government had given 43 million to support families from Hong Kong coming over, and I wrote to the team, because I used to work for the civil service. I knew I had kind of how to find out who these people were, so I found out who they were and I contacted them, and they put me in touch with they said that it's kind of devolved locally, and then I happened to see a newspaper article that you'd been featured in, your company, in a local newspaper. I think is it Macclesfield?
Yeah, Macclesfield.
So I looked at that article and I thought I need to make contact with these people. So and that's how I made contact. But I didn't necessarily expect you to come and meet me, which I'm delighted to meet you. But it was a pleasant surprise, you know, that I didn't think you'd maybe have time. But it's
because a lot of Hong Kong people are interested in how to apply a school or to actually see a school.
Yes.
And with you being so helpful, I think this is a good opportunity.
Yes, yeah. Well, I could see that your channel's becoming very, very popular with a lot of subscribers, don't you? So, yeah, it was a good. I mean, I am trying to. I think we have a fantastic school, and for me, I'd like to see. We've got a little bit of room in the school, and I'd like to see it full, because I think we have a. You know, we offer an amazing service, and you know. I think I'm very proud of the team and what they do and how caring they are for the individual. So you know the tailored provision that we offer the individual child is amazing. So I just thought, well, this is something that maybe we can offer for those families that are coming over to give them that head start that they need, and you know help their children to make really rapid progress so that they can achieve, you know, fully, and maybe even, you know, go to university, and you know, even if they're starting a little bit late on their journey, you know, they might not even speak English yet, but that's fine. You know, that's not a problem. You know, we can achieve great things here.
Okay. So do you mind give us some information about the history and the information about the school, like what age the children, and how many children in each year?
Yeah. So in this school, the children would arrive in reception. So in reception, you'd be coming up to your 5th birthday. So some of them would be around 4, coming up to 5. They'd call Rising 5. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sure that like nearby there's like a little local flying club.
Yeah.
So yeah, I keep. Must go.
Just one question we get asked sometimes is, so say for example a child's 6, but they maybe fell behind at Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Can they go the year below even though their age?
It is we can do that. We can do that. But the only thing is, that other schools would not be obliged to. So, say for instance, if we took them back 1 year, the other schools, when they left here at say to go to secondary school, the secondary school would not necessarily be obliged to keep them back.
Yeah.
But there is I think if that child was making fairly good progress in Hong Kong, you know, obviously not maybe having been educated through the medium of English, but if they were making good progress, there's no reason why that intelligence and that progress wouldn't eventually just transfer through once they've mastered English and learned to write in English. So I don't think that, I mean, I used to have German speaking children who would join us maybe around the age of 7 or 8, and by about 6 months, you know, they were doing really well. I mean, we're very big on learning to read and learning to spell. You know, using the phonetic system, and they would I think they would get that, you know, fairly quickly. You know, it wouldn't be. There would be, you know, there'd be a noticeable difference at first, but I think they would be pleasant. I mean, I think the parents would be pleasantly surprised how quickly their child would be coming home with English reading books and being able to read, and you know, and they'd probably be really, really proud of them, I think.
Yeah. And previously you mentioned about the school time and after school and school clubs.
Yes.
Can you?
Yes. So we normally start at 8:45. That's our normal starting time. But for working parents, we can take their children from 7:30. There's a slight charge for that as we extended the school day for them, and it's like we call it a breakfast club. So they can drop their children off to breakfast club, and then they can stay for a little bit, and then we'll take them to class at the normal starting time. Our normal finish time is at 3:10, but often when we haven't got kind of pandemic conditions, we have our extracurricular activities. So sometimes, if your child you know, wants to do it, like join football club or join Scottish dancing or join STEM club, the day might be a little bit longer. If you're a working parent and you can't get here for 3:10, then we can offer after school club, which for a small charge, and that the time for after school club is from 3:10, and then we'll finish at 6 o'clock.
That's really good.
And then in the after school club, we'll give them a snack, they'll have a drink, we might do a little bit of homework with them, but they'll have a chance to play outside. If the weather's not so good, they'll play inside, and we'll allow them to kind of like, and the play might be, if they're young children, they might, you know, get some blocks out. Older children might do a bit of coding, or they might do some construction, play with some construction equipment, things like that. But they're usually quite happy, and when the parents do come to pick them up, they're normally quite sad to go, which is, I have to explain to the parents, don't take it personally. They're just having a nice time.
Okay, and I think a lot of Hong Kong family interested to know is what's the process in applying a place in school?
Right.
Yeah.
In England, the process is usually handled by the local authority. So this local authority is Cheshire West. So wherever you would move to, each area would have a local authority, and they usually have a central admissions team. But if you don't arrive at the beginning of the school year, the best thing I would suggest is that maybe you contact the school to get some, and inquire whether they've got spaces, and make some informal, have some informal conversations, because the school will if they've got spaces and you want to go to that school, they'll more than likely want to help you through the application process, and they will be able to help you. In normal circumstances, you need to have an address before you apply for a school place, but if you haven't got an address yet, it might be a good idea to just make a few inquiries to see whether there's capacity within the local area where you want to go. So for instance, I came back, I moved to the UK, and I wasn't really prepared to kind of buy a house until I knew that there was spaces in the school, because I didn't really want to have to drive a long way to school, and so I made sure that there was some space before I kind of made that commitment, because it's quite important if you are looking to go somewhere. That's quite important.
And what's the deadline if they want to join in September or in between terms?
If they join, I mean, ideally it's always good to join at the beginning of the year, but not everyone can do that. I think that people move at different times, so we would call it an in-school year transfer, and that's something that does happen. It's quite regular, so it's not a problem. That we would help anyone coming here to make friends, because I think when a new child arrives, it's really important to have good pastoral care, because having seen children who have virtually arrived on a jet plane, from a very warm place to arrive into, say, a very cooler place in the winter, it's quite a big shock to the system. So they need really good pastoral care. They need to have be introduced to children. They need to be watched to help their friendships develop and things like that, so that kind of initial shock of coming to a new school is lessened, so that they can enjoy that transition as much as they can then.
Yes, so really thankful that you contact us. And one of the things you mentioned that you would support Hong Kong families. Can you elaborate more how you could help?
Yeah. So in some schools, we're very fortunate that we have 2 adults in each class. So if somebody did come from Hong Kong and they had, say, some gaps in their English knowledge, or and couldn't write English very well, that would be one of the areas that we would be able to support them with, because not every classroom would have another adult. So our adults here are very highly qualified, and we would be able to offer some really good support for those families. And we offer quite good tailored provision. So we would look at someone and think, what are their gaps in their learning, and we would kind of address those gaps. If it was if they couldn't read any English at the moment, then we could easily facilitate them joining another group, so that we can get them up to speed quickly, and then we can get them reading. But that would be our goal, is to try and support them to become independent and feel confident and know that they're achieving. Because if the child knows that they're achieving, they'll want to learn more, they'll do well. And but I think the most important thing though is that any child come to our school is happy, so that they want to learn, and that's really important. And we would do that, because in a small school we know all of our learners. We know whether that child is taught by 2 people or whether it's the whole community. When we're all outside and on duty, we know our children really well, so we can always tell if they're unhappy or sad. We'll go up to them, make sure that everything's okay. So I think the care and the support we can offer is really great in that regard.
Okay, that's good. So sorry, so how many students do you have then for each year?
Oh, right. In each year we have next year we'll probably have around 7. We have 3 classes. 17 we have, and then 25 and 25. So this year we've got 71 students, so we'll have slightly less next year. Hence we have a little bit of room to help. So this, with the younger children, 5, and back in 1875 it would have been 1 classroom with the schoolmaster probably living up there. If he was lucky enough to be married, his wife would live there as well, and they would come and in the day they realise how fortunate they are to come to such a nice environment. It's 1992, I believe. And often they'll ask for help to get down. So in science, one of the things they have to do is to study germination. So we have traditional kind of PE apparatus, which we get out so that the children can learn about strength, learn to climb, when we do our gymnastics here. We tend to do that in the winter time when the weather's not so good. And that will maybe change Tokyo to Hong Kong and reset the time like that. So this is by the time the children get to the end of their time here, so that wherever they go on from our school, they can bring with them high standards.
今次呢個訪問呢，我做得好開心，因為同埋都好感動，因為覺得好難得一間學校啦，一個校長啦，真係可以咁熱心或者咁有 passion 去辦呢個教學咯。校長去到每一個 corner 每一個細節，佢都可以講到俾我聽佢背後個意思，所以我覺得佢哋真係擺好多心思喺令到每個學生都受益嘅。咁如果有興趣嘅家長啦，都可以直接聯絡呢一個校長，我會留低佢個 email address 喺個 description 度嘅。咁好啦，今次呢講到咁多，下次呢有機會再介紹多啲好嘅 topic 俾大家啦。咁下次再見啦，拜。